Well, I'll introduce myself. My name is Mary Todd. I think I've met almost everybody in here, and I sure appreciate you coming today. I'm the director over at the K-State Women's Center, and I sure appreciate the support that everybody's given the center lately. I have a great staff that's helped, and the professionals on campus have been a great addition as well. This is a topic that people don't like to talk about, but the more we open it up and talk about it, the greater the chances are that we can move the problem away from being crisis and horrible and bad and into something manageable and lessen the effects of this. How many of you knew that we have a Flint Hills Sexual Assault Coalition in town now? And most of your presenters today are actually board members of that group. So it's a fairly newly formed group, and it's a way that the city of Manhattan can begin to address the problem of sexual assault in our community. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to show you a quick 5-minute film that describes a very typical sexual assault that would take place. This is actually an actual person describing one that was in the area some years ago. And then we're going to hear kind of two different streams of information, one of which will be the legal response, the legal stream, first from law enforcement, and we'll hear from Don Stubbings, our captain, and I'll introduce him, and then we'll hear from our county attorney, Barry Wilkerson, about kind of the legal aspects and the law enforcement aspects. Then we'll go on to the treatment and response side, and we'll hear from a SANE SART nurse and Travis, who works with children, sadly, and myself, who work with adult victims. So you're welcome to interrupt any of us at any time with questions, and we'll also use the end of the session for general questions as well. Okay, anything before we get going? Ready to be downed out? Okay, all right. So we'll start with this film. Like I said, it's only 5 minutes long.
It was available in health and nutrition stores in the United States until it was banned by the FDA in 1990.
GHB's street names include Liquid X, Liquid E, and Grievous Bodily Harm.
Aside from decreasing inhibitions, GHB intoxication will also lead to a deep coma-like sleep, shallow breathing, decreased blood pressure, and short-term memory loss. Use of GHB can also be fatal.
Hypno, GHB disappears quickly into drinks. It can be found in a white powder form, but it is more often sold as a clear, odorless liquid.
GHB is absorbed very quickly by the human body and will not show up in blood or urine tests if a rape victim waits too long to get tested.
What you hear commonly people say is, I only had 1 or 2 drinks, and all of a sudden I was so drunk, like I've never been drunk before, and I just felt, so out of it, and then I think I blacked out, and, I only had 1 or 2 beers. I think that's a good indication that maybe something has been slipped into a drink.
Now we're going to hear Megan's story. Megan met this guy. They talked a little, and he wanted to see her again. He asked her to meet him a few days later at a bar near their college campus.
Megan didn't know the guy very well, so she took a friend with her for the date. He seemed very nice, and after a while, Megan's friend left the 2 students alone. Megan and her date left the bar and went to his frat house to have a beer and talk.
We got to the house, and they had a few beer taps, and he started fooling with them, trying to get them to work properly. The beer was too full. And he took me into the kitchen when he realized that it wasn't going to work, and he asked me if I wanted to pour myself a cranberry vodka. And I said yes, and he told me to pour it myself, because if a girl got too drunk in a frat house, then there were problems. So I poured it myself. I poured it very weak because I didn't want to get drunk. So I liked this guy and I thought he was really nice, and I didn't want to make a fool out of myself. And I also knew that a frat house isn't the best place to be drunk. And I took a few sips of it, and about 20 minutes later, while he was still fooling with the beer taps, I just had to sit down because I was really, really drunk. So I went and sat down on the couch, and he came over and we started kissing, and he told me that we should go upstairs in case any of his fraternity brothers came home. And I went upstairs with him. One thing led to another. I had sex with him. And afterwards, he told me that he needed to go back to the bar where we had met because he needed to pick up his credit card. He left, and I just sort of passed out. And the next thing I remember, I kept voices, and they were really intimidating. I couldn't do anything. All I could do was just lay there. And these people came in and started having sex with me, and I was so scared. Like, I didn't know who they were. I didn't know how many there were in the room. I was really disoriented, confused. I couldn't do anything, just lay there. I couldn't move at all. I couldn't move. When they left, the guy that brought me to the house came back, and I told him what had happened, and he was like, "Oh, what are you talking about? You're drunk, just go back to sleep." So I went back to sleep. The next morning, there were members of his fraternity looking in on me as I slept and making jokes about it. They sent a pledge up with some food that I told them I didn't want. And as I left the house, they were being really rude, making really, really rude comments. And so I just left. I didn't really know what was going on. I didn't know, if this guy had just told his friends to come on in and have a great time, or what, or if he even knew anything about it. I was really confused. I didn't know anything, really.
Well, hip.
Very disturbing, and in fact, I see women at the K-State Women's Center with this exact story every year. There's been a dramatic increase in the use of date rape drugs. What she described is actually not being really, really drunk on one drink, but a dosed drink. And in this case, obviously, the cranberry juice in the refrigerator was strictly meant for visiting women who were told to make themselves a drink. According to the FBI statistics, or the U.S. Department of Justice, and you can look up the sexual victimization of college women online, a campus our size with 10,000 women probably has somewhere upwards between 300 or 400 rapes a year. 80 to 90% of those are known acquaintances of the victim, or even a year or two long friendships to the victim. So the first thing that happens after this event, what do you all feel the first thing a woman should, a woman, a child, a man, whoever is assaulted, what's the first thing they should do? We know that people that, especially currently when the police and the hospital staffs have received training, and there's a good response to victims, that victims of this crime can heal faster if they do report to the police and if they get counsel.